Hey, welcome once again to Rock Your Faith Out. Man, I am really pleased to have with me the bass player from Pillar and world champion fitness guy, weightlifter, bodybuilder, Michael Wittig. What's up, Michael?
Man, I'm glad to be here. Doing great.
I'm so happy to have you here, man. I appreciate you taking the time. Hey, boy, yeah, you're just known for a few different things, huh? Man, you go from playing the bass and Pillar to bodybuilding and fitness and all that other stuff and acting and how do you keep that all together, man? That's a lot going on.
Man, I've always been one to pursue things that I just have a lot of fun at, my passions. And since I was in high school, I've always loved music and I've always loved fitness. So I've been very blessed to be able to do both of those things as a career. So I just do a bunch of random stuff during the day, a little music, a little bit of fitness, a little bit of acting, and just try to juggle it and have fun while I'm doing it.
Well, that's awesome. And we'll try to get a little tag at the end there, keep people updated as to what you've got coming up and what's going on with Pillar, what's going on with everything else you've got in the works. So, but right now what I'd like to do is I'd like to do a little deep dive on your faith, sir. And why don't we kind of go back to the beginnings of who brought you into the faith? How did you get introduced to Christ? Was it your parents? Was it a friend? Was it yourself being, just interested in the topic? Or how did that come about?
Yeah, so I was actually raised by my grandparents. Okay. My real mom, Rhonda, she got caught up into drugs and just some bad stuff young. And I was raised since birth basically by my grandparents. Okay. Never really met her until I was in high school. Met her one time, and then after that she split, and then she passed away young. So I was raised by my grandparents, and they were believers, especially my grandma, who I call mom. So when I say mom, I'm referring to my grandparents. Mom and dad were my grandparents. And mom would just took us to church every Sunday, and I remember accepting Christ at a young age. And then again, when I was a little older and understood, more what it was, but, we just were raised as a church family, and I went to Christian schools growing up. So Jesus has always had a big part of my life ever since a very young age.
Well, that's kind of cool. At kind of what age were you when you did start to kind of grasp it? Because I know a lot of times when kids are being taken to church by their parents, or in your case, your grandparents, like you're just kind of going along with it, right? And there are some kids who just grasp it at a very early age, and others it's not so important. Like with me, I even went to a Catholic school growing up, but I really wasn't grasping it or anything until I was much older. So what was it like for you? Like at what point in time, like as you were a teenager, a little bit older, when you really started to grasp who Jesus was?
For me, it was when I was pretty young, definitely before teenager. I remember being really young and just dreading going to church because it seemed like it was hours and hours. I remember throwing a fit. That was real young though, but I would say 8 years old, 9, 10. I really understood what was going on. Maybe not to the depth I do now as an adult, of course, but it meant something to me when I was pretty darn young. And there was a reason, or at least I have proof of that, because of an event that happened when I was pretty young.
You want to talk about that, or is that a little personal?
Yeah, no, we totally can. So no, I was pretty little, I would have been about 7 or 8 maybe. And it was my birthday. And I like riding my bike, and we were going to go to Chuck E. Cheese for my birthday. I don't know if you've been there, but we had one in California where I lived. We went there all the time. I love Chuck E. Cheese. And I was riding my bike before our trip to Chuck E. Cheese, and I got hit by a car. Some teenagers that were passing out newspapers, and their car was going a little too fast in the neighborhood and hit me just straight on as I was crossing the street. And I went through the windshield, and I was told this after the fact that I was blacked out and in a coma then for a while afterwards. Went through their windshield, they hit the brakes, and I rolled back out and hit the concrete. Woke up however many weeks later in the hospital. And now I don't remember this, but my mom told me about this, that I woke up, and she asked me how I was doing. And the first words out of my mouth were that Jesus saved me. Wow. And because of this story that I was told, I knew it happened because I had to wear like a full body brace for a while. Like I had a lot of stuff messed up. I remember having to wear this big metal plastic brace, like on my whole upper body for a while. I felt ever since a young age that I was here for a purpose, that God did save me for a reason. So that knowing that has enabled me to push really hard towards, hey, working with Christian music with Pillar, being a champion bodybuilder, basically trying things that are really hard, with a very low success rate that a lot of people don't go for. I've always been really motivated to go after things like that because I felt like I've always had a purpose. I was here for a reason to do things.
Yeah, it sounds like it anyways. So did you have a personal encounter with Jesus when you were in your coma? Or?
No, I remember absolutely nothing. I was riding across thinking about Chuck E. Cheese and pizza, and then at some point later woke up and was eating green Jell-O.
Yeah, and that's the thing that stinks the most, right? You didn't even get your pizza.
I didn't get no pizza. I eventually did.
Right. I'm sure. Well, okay, so you survived that, and you probably, at some point in time, I know even when people have a miraculous encounter, it just kind of drifts into the past. It's still with you, right? But it kind of it's buried in the past, and you're just going about your day, just trying to live your day-to-day life. And but were there instances along the way where during your life, like you're looking back to that moment and saying, I see now why God saved me there, or you know what I mean? Like there's got to be like other instances in your life where you're like, yeah, boy, if I wasn't here, X, Y, or Z wouldn't have happened, and look at the fruits of that labor. Does that ever go through your mind, like thinking back to that time?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I didn't really forget that time. It's something that I always, for some reason, remember. And like I said, it motivates me to do a lot of the stuff I do, which is really diverse and a bunch of random things that I do for a living nowadays.
Right.
And I feel like I was saved more than once. I've been in numerous car wrecks, and I remember one time in high school just walking around, and a friend of mine they were playing catch, I guess, or the baseball team was practicing, and I was just walking in the field with my friend and not paying attention. And one of my friends got their mitten, put it right to my temple, and caught the ball that would have hit me a fastball right in the temple. I remember that, and I probably would have died.
Angels in the outfield, right?
Yeah, and then a few car wrecks that were pretty bad, most of them my fault because I'm a terrible driver. But I feel that I've been saved more than I deserve, and I don't forget that stuff. And like I said, it motivates me to do things and not give up. And then more importantly, they'll use the platforms that I've been able to create in music and fitness to try to have a genuine positive impact on other people.
Right. Wow, that's pretty cool. So how about now, since we're talking about whenever you were younger and like you said, you kind of came into your faith at an early age. Were you hanging out with friends who were kind of the same mind, of the same faith, or were they just like regular friends and you kind of kept to yourself with your faith, or like what was that experience like growing up?
Man, I went to Christian schools for a lot of the time until about 10th grade. And my best friend, so all through grade school and all high school, was a guy named Malin from Southern California. And we met at the Christian school at like 3rd grade. And we were friends we're still friends now, but I've moved out to Oklahoma, so I don't talk to him very much. But all the way through college, we were best friends, and great Christians, solid guy, still is. And then my circle of friends were a lot like that. Most of them were believers. And, I got into wanting to play music and be in bands in high school. And it was always Christian bands and generally believers I was playing with. Every once in a while, I'd meet a guy that we would jam with that maybe wasn't. But my circle was pretty small and pretty tight, really, growing up.
Well, that's good. That probably kind of helped you stay grounded in the faith as well, right? Because
kept me out of trouble.
Yeah, because when you have other outside influences, it might tend to, take your eye off the ball. You know what I mean, so to speak, and lead you down a wrong path. Not to say that Christian friends couldn't do the same, right? But
yeah. I had some good friends that really helped me just in life. They're just good people that I learned from, that helped support me, and just very happy with the group of friends that I had growing up and still have today.
That's great. So at what point in time in your life did you start getting involved in music, or which came first, let me ask you? Did the fit, because you've, even from the early days of Pillar, you've been pretty buff, you know what I mean? Not as jacked as you are now, but you've always been pretty buff. So which came first, the fitness side of things or the music side of things?
I think fitness, it was very close to around the same time. In high school, ages 15 to 16. I think fitness started first, and I got into that just because I was really skinny, like embarrassingly skinny. Like I didn't want to change in the locker room or take my shirt off to swim with buddies because I was just so skinny. My dad bought me a weight set and gave me Arnold Schwarzenegger's book, and I just went to town on it and really enjoyed it right away. It's something I enjoyed. And then very soon after, around the same time period, a movie called Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure came out.
Love it.
And I watched that movie, and that inspired me to want to play guitar. And my youth pastor at church at the time, his name was Chris. You know, he was the worship leader and guitar player. And so he started giving me lessons and taught me how to play guitar. And I played on the worship team. And then soon after that, my high school needed a new bass player for the jazz band because the guy that was my friend Bill, who was playing it at the time, was graduating. So he encouraged me to switch over to the bass, and I ended up enjoying it and playing in jazz band and have been a bass player ever since. But weightlifting started first, though, just right before, maybe a year before I got into music. Right.
Yeah, it's the old, not like George Lynch, George Lynch is for the guitar player for Doc, and he was always kind of scrawny in the band as well, but like he started really working out like later in life, and the same with like Phil Collins from Def Leppard. And so I don't know, there's something with this guitar player, bass player, stuff like this where rock, they just
there's working out, especially.
I was just saying, one or two choices. You're either going to get buff or you get big and fat, like some other musicians do. You know what I mean?
Well, the strength training. I'm a master trainer now. I am a certified trainer, and I do a lot of stuff in the fitness realm. I've always loved fitness since I was young. Music and fitness. My whole life has always been revolved around those two things. And with strength training, it's like the fountain of youth. It keeps you looking young, feeling young, and if you can look young and feel young, it doesn't hurt when you're on a rock stage. When you're doing rock and roll, if you feel young and look young and can move around still and do what you want to do, it helps a lot.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and especially a band like Pillar that has a lot of energy, and you guys want to bring that energy to the stage. You don't want to be just standing off in the corner, or just with your feet together, playing. That just doesn't pay off.
Yeah, we got some moving around to do.
Yeah, definitely. So, okay, well, you're just getting involved in music. What was your early influences? And I'm pretty sure it probably wasn't Christian rock, or was it?
In Southern California at the time, Christian rock was emerging. There's bands that did influence me back then that are still talked about, and some of them are still doing reunion shows, and they're not well known. Well, of course, I've knew a Striper. I mean, I went to Christian high school, and Striper was wearing the yellow and the black, and at that time, I don't know if I was a big fan really at the time, but there was a song or two that I did like, but I wouldn't say they were an influence of mine. There were newer bands in Southern California. One's called The Prayer Chain. They were really big in Southern California, and they actually toured all over the U.S. because I saw them in Kansas City when I ended up moving it to the Midwest later on. They definitely influenced me, and I know they're doing some reunion shows this year still. So these guys are still known. The Prayer Chain influenced me. There was a band in Southern California called Mortal that influenced me, a band called A Sight Unseen, and a handful of others I probably forgot about. But they were more underground rock, but all Christian, that was a big influence. There was a high school Christian band called Ivory Fire that I really looked up to. I don't think they ever hit national or big, but these guys were playing shows, and I thought they were the best thing in the world back then. I was like, man, I want to be in a band like those guys. So yeah, I had influences for sure. Not as a bass player though, but as Christian rock, those are influences. As a bass player though, I was looking like the Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Geddy Lee from Rush, Robert Trujillo, who plays with Metallica now, but he played with a band called Infectious Grooves many years ago before then. A lot of those bass players were more influences for me personally as a player.
So the guys that really move on the bass, right? They know how to use the bass a lot. They're not just thumpers.
Yeah,
right?
I can't play as good as those guys, but they were definitely influences on me. Rage Against the Machine, their bass player was something I really enjoyed. And I would say he actually influenced me, where you can hear some of that in Pillar music, probably some of those guys and how they played.
Right. So, at what point did your interest in music like morph over time, like to probably get more into some more heavy stuff? Or, I mean, Pillar does. It's really hard to describe their music. They're not nu metal at all, I don't think. But they're heavy, but they're melodic, and so I don't know. But they fit in with the Christian rock scene, like with Disciple and Decipher Down and Red and bands like that. But there's a totally different vibe to Pillar in their music. That's more, I don't want to say street, but more urban sound to it. How would you classify that?
Our music,
you're right, man.
Like, growing up, I listened to everything, and I still do. So I listened to rock young, but then I got in a rap phase. I moved out to Kansas when I was 19, 20, and worked out on the family farm for a while and listened to country music. Then I got back into hard rock music, and so I've listened to just about everything through the years. Super heavy music, heavy metal for a while, and I prefer hard rock. Probably is my favorite to listen to, but I enjoy just about every style. So Pillar's sound definitely changed through the years, though. When we first started, we had some different members. There was the original members of Pillar, and then what I would call like the legacy members, me, Rob, Noah, and Lester. So when we started, we had different guys, and I would say our early music, our original guitar player was really a big fan of 311, which is kind of rock funk type stuff with some rap on it. That's when POD just came out with their very first album. So we were really influenced by like a little funky stuff, rock, rap a little bit. Our singer Rob, listened to Beastie Boys early on. So you can hear the bands we were influenced by.
You can hear that in Pillar. You can definitely hear that, and even some of the modern stuff. Like the One Love Revolution stuff. There's you're still keeping that. There's a little bit of that rap vibe in the vocal lyric lines and stuff like that.
And Paratrooper and One Love. So it's always been a part of our sound, and it became, when the music changed a little bit, I would say it got a little bit more of an edge, where the funky side kind of stepped out. You would hear on our independent stuff in our very first album, Above, things got a little bit harder, a little bit more edgier on the Fireproof album, and that's when Noah Henson stepped in. He was definitely a metalhead. He still is. And he came in on guitars, and we got a great story. Our original guitar player, Travis, had a talk with us about he was going to leave and not be on the road anymore. And we ended up playing in North Carolina, and one of the opening bands, they were called Signet. They were opening for us, and we were watching him, and this guy was just tearing it up on stage. Had long hair, and he was just ripping it up on guitar, and we're like, that's the guy we need. And it was Noah. So we got home, and I tracked that sucker down. I called the club. Who is that band? Who's that guitar player? And just called him and had him fly out and try out. And his sound evolved Pillar to the next level, basically. He's the one that wrote the Fireproof riffs, the Bring Me Down riffs. Of course, we wrote as a band, but Noah Henson's a genius. And around the same time, soon after, that's when Lester came in. Right. And Lester's one of the best drummers that I've ever played
he's
with.
Slamming.
Probably,
he's slamming.
Yeah, one of the best in the world. So once we had those two guys step in, our sound just went to another level.
Right. Yeah, and then recently you recruited Noah's doppelganger with JR to play live with you guys.
There's awesome stories behind all that too.
Right, I'm sure. So as you're getting involved in the heavy rock side, what was it like trying to incorporate your faith into that? There's not so much in over the last 20 some years, but if you go back like into the 90s and the 80s, there's that stigma that, parents or whatever used to have about playing, you can't play that heavy rock and that just doesn't go together. That's the devil's music and whatever. So you're probably past that stigma phase in getting into that stuff. But was there ever a thought of just trying to keep it more mainstream, or were you like, well, no, this is who I am. It's going to be injected into my music career as well.
Well, when the band started, the intentions right away were for it to be a Christian band. That was never really a question. It was like we all agreed, hey, this is going to be a Christian band. So early on, before we had enough original material to play a full show, I mean, we were playing the Switchfoot cover, Third Day cover, Supertones cover. So we had covers from the Switchfoot, all these bands we were playing in our set, and then our original song just to make enough music to last an hour or so. So it's just always been a part of what we were, or what we do. And I remember in the early days, though, I remember playing certain events where people would be out with signs, music of the devil, rock music's of the devil. And I remember, but there wasn't a lot of that. It wasn't we were bothered all the time. It was rare. But every once in a while, I'd see people picketing outside the venues of the churches or events that we were playing like that. So it's not, we've always, even when we got farther along and we're on, let's say, Where Do We Go From Here, which is one of our albums that did the best, we did some mainstream stuff then. I remember being on Headbangers Ball, and some secular stations would play our stuff, and we'd play some shows with secular bands and stuff. But even then, we weren't trying to be a non-Christian band. We were just a Christian band that happened to have some cool opportunities to help us reach other people.
Not like Evanescence. They started out a Christian band, and then they were just like, "Whoa, we don't want this,"
Yeah, we've always been Pillar. We've always been a faith-based band, and it's been pretty apparent and clear in our lyrics, what we're trying to say.
Yeah, I think that I remember whenever I discovered that you can really rock hard for Christ, it changed my life and my world, because I grew up with 80s music and the 80s hair metal bands and whatnot, and of course I was a kid in the 70s, so I grew up with a lot of that kind of music, Boston, Journey, Styx, and whatnot, and Kiss. But when I remember the first time I heard Skillet, it was 20-some years ago, whatever. Might have been, over 20 years ago.
Probably 30 years ago, because we were been around over 25, and Skillet had already put out several albums before we did anything. Yeah,
I think, so when I first heard them, and I'm like, this is Christian music? It blew my mind. I'm like, I didn't know you could, other than Stryper, like you said, I was a big Stryper fan because I was part of the hair metal scene. I really wasn't sure if they were gimmicky or if they were true in their faith or whatever. And really didn't care. I really liked the music because it fit right in with all the 80s stuff.
Yeah.
And, but, when I heard Skillet, and then a few years later I heard I heard Pillar, I heard Red, I heard Decipher Down, and I fell in like hook, line, and sinker, because at that point in time, when I was younger, I really wasn't as close to Jesus as I am now. So it was like a game changer for me to find out, as I grew in my faith, that man, I can rock for Christ. And I think they're the today's younger generation that not only is attracted to Pillar and heavy Christian rock and stuff, but as all young kids do, they pay attention to the lyrics. So when they pair a music that drives them and makes them feel good, and they start reading the lyrics, I think that at that point in time is where it becomes life changing and altering for them, because they, even if they don't grasp it up front, it's kind of sinking into their being, right? And they're absorbing
music's
it.
Powerful. Music is powerful. It's very powerful. So, there's certain things I don't really want my kids to even listen to, because I know it has an influence on them. That's one of the reasons why we started the band. We wanted to be an alternative. We wanted to have music that people enjoy that's actually going to speak positivity to them. And it's the same reason I'm sure Red, Disciple, and Skillet and all those bands do what they do too. We got to give people something different.
Rock your guys out!
At Salvation Consulting, we help streamline and optimize your production process. We're here to enhance your project with expert guidance and creative, scalable solutions. We specialize in helping churches and ministries, independent filmmakers, podcast producers, or those looking to create the next great music video. Visualize, optimize, realize. Salvation Consulting.
What can you tell me about while playing with Pillar? I'm sure you've got a million stories to tell, people you've met along the way, and events that maybe people you've met have had life-changing events and moments and stuff like that. What is like one of the most memorable things you can think of somebody telling you a Pillar experience that they've had that, you know, saved their life or brought them to Christ or was just life-changing for them?
There's countless stories like that. And a lot of the old days, you know, when we were doing it full time, there was so much. It's what we did every day, all day, that it all just kind of is a mush in my mind. But what I do know is that after about a decade, you know, we had a reunion shows last year. So the first show was in Tulsa, you know, and it was the first show we played in a decade, longer than that with all four of us. And we had a lot of people at that show. About 1,500 plus showed up. A couple people flew from overseas. Now, some of these people, some of these guys, though, around this event, during the meet and greet and after the show, because we stayed and met and talked to everybody, man, we heard some powerful stories. Things maybe I don't want to say we ever took it for granted, but it's been so long, you know, maybe we didn't realize the impact we had on people. But we had guys pull us aside in tears, just telling us how our music saved their life. I mean, they were literally ready to commit suicide, and one of our songs would come on. And these are stories we just heard last June. And these guys were still so thankful 15, 20 years later that they're in tears and stuff. And they just, you know, we just felt very blessed to have been able to do what we do, especially after hearing these stories, man. We were just very thankful.
Yeah, there might have been a few people that traveled a long distance just to maybe get the chance to tell you, you know,
they did. Some guys came from, man, where'd they come from? Amsterdam or something? I mean, someplace, I'm talking like Europe. One guy drove his motorcycle from New Hampshire all the way to Tulsa straight to come to that show. And we just heard countless stories like that, just one after another, you know, and we're going to be able to share some of those stories soon, though, because we filmed a lot of this. You know, we were making a documentary about coming back, and some of these individuals were down to be interviewed. My son Caden actually is the director for it, so I just stayed out of it. I let him do everything. So he had a whole team at the show, and a lot of these individuals were excited to be on camera and be able to tell their stories. So we'll be able to share some of this with everybody when that comes out.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, man. I can't wait to see it myself.
Me too. So, I'm excited to see it.
While we're talking about Pillar, before we move on from there, I just have to throw out one personal note to you guys that, and everybody has their, like, you know, this is my favorite, that's my favorite. And I'm glad to see that you guys played this at your reunion show or in that grouping. I personally think that the song One Love Revolution is one of Pillar's best songs ever. Lyrically and musically, it is so powerful because, especially in today's day and age where we're so divided, as not just the country, but the world, you know what I mean? It's just, we're so divided that we need to come together in love and look to Jesus. And that song itself could be an anthem to unite people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Awesome, man. That song, the cool thing about that song is during the Reckoning time period, when we did the Reckoning tour, we had a second guitar player play with us on stage. He's a good friend of ours named Joey Avalos. Now, Joey is an original member from the Christian rock band Justified. Okay. So one of our very first tours we ever played was Skillet. It was Pillar, and then opening was Justified. So we've known Skillet since forever, for 20 years. Right. You know, one of our very first tours was Skillet. You know, we just saw them last year in June when one of our shows, they were there. So we've known those guys for a long time. Now, Justified, we've known just as long, though. So Joey from Justified came on as a second guitar player, not as an official band member, just as a second live player. Joey helped co-write that song, One Love Revolution. Because we had the music and we had ideas, but I think Rob was a little stuck on what to do with it lyrically at the time. And Joey is a phenomenal songwriter. So Joey helped pen those lyrics and melody. You know, he's just a good friend of ours. And I remember going up to Nashville, where Noah lives, for a couple of days just to work on music for that album, for the One Love Revolution album. I went up there and we spent days just going through ideas and maybe little pieces he had recorded. And I remember hearing that opening track, that on a demo of his, and I said, that one, that's the one.
Right.
Because we'll go through music. I'm like, no, that's trash. That's junk. Not that one. Oh, that's cool. Keep that. I heard that one. I said, that is really cool. Let's work on that. And that's
right.
That little riff, and with Joey's help, turned into the song One Love Revolution, which we did play for the very first time last year when we played the reunion shows.
Yeah, because you weren't touring when that album came out, right?
Nope. We played One Love Revolution, and we played the song Paratrooper, and we played the song We Ride, which was one of my favorites to play live. We Ride was awesome. I
love We Ride.
We played those three songs for the very first time when was our first show? Early June. Our first show was in Tulsa. Then we played 2 shows in Ohio in July. It was the very first time those songs had ever been played, even together as a band, because we recorded that album remotely. Lester and Noah live in Nashville. Me and Rob live in Tulsa. So we were never all 4 in the same room ever playing those songs ever. They were recorded separately. So during rehearsals was the first time those songs were ever played by us together.
Yeah, see, I mean, the fans don't know that, and it's good that you're revealing that here, because that's a really cool little tidbit of information. And it kind of reminds me of when Journey first went on tour with Steve Augeri when they got him, and they never got to tour on their Trial by Fire album. And so they were considering that part of their Trial by Fire tour without Steve Perry and with that. So it's kind of like the same thing. And that's always kind of a little cool inside information on that. So, but, I hope you guys continue to keep playing the songs off that album, because I think
since we learned them, we're going to play them. And it's our most recent music up until now. So yeah, we'll probably be jamming. I don't know exactly which ones, but we got some events booked later this year, and we'll keep doing stuff as years go on. But yeah, they'll pop back up for sure.
Yeah, well, we'll talk. I know one big festival you guys are playing. We'll talk about that at the end here, so we can tease that for people what's coming up. So, and now let's shift over to bodybuilding a little bit. How do you incorporate your faith in bodybuilding? Was it with music you listen to when you're working out? Is it just by a message? Because you got a big following in your fitness side of things. Probably, I'm not sure if it's equally or more than being in Pillar, but you've got a pretty big following doing that, being a world champion and stuff. So is it just in the message that you have when you're talking to people or doing interviews? Is it, how do you work your faith into that?
So I would say that the following for fitness is bigger nowadays than it is with Pillar.
Right.
I got certified as a trainer about a decade ago. I've always loved fitness since a young age. I found it, built my body, felt more confident. It's something I've done off and on, even throughout Pillar. There's times where we got too busy and I didn't work out, and I would always come back to it. Then by the Reckoning album, most of the band was working out on tour every day. Me and Lester Noah would come with us, Rob would join in, so it's always been a part of my life. And once I stopped touring with Pillar and doing tours, because we started having so many kids and this other things happened and we stopped touring, that's when I jumped into fitness as a career. I was like, what else am I going to do? I've always loved fitness. So I got certified as a trainer. That was about a decade ago. And I trained clients, in person. But I always think a lot bigger, so I started writing books, started writing for fitness magazines. I started getting sponsors, because I understand social media through the band. I understand social media and sponsors and how that stuff works. So I just applied what I learned from the band into my fitness career, because I wanted to be able to reach more people.
Right.
My passion for life was always helping people. With music, with Pillar, we were helping people through our music. With fitness, I wanted to be able to help them with their fitness. And the cool thing about fitness is it really goes hand in hand with faith. There's a lot of parallels there. But I used my fitness platform to try to help as many people as I could. So I was writing for magazines, doing interviews, maybe speaking at events. And then around 2016, I had the itch to try to compete. I just was like, that'd be cool. I wonder how I'd do at that. So I did my first competition and enjoyed it. I met great people. It was a lot of fun, and it's just something that I like to do. And in 2017, on my 4th event, I got my pro card. So which means I won a class and at the time I was 39 years old when I started to compete. Bunch of 20-year-olds, and I was the oldest guy there, but I ended up winning. And it's something I've always enjoyed. Now, where the faith comes through is more when I'm interacting with people. I can't talk about stuff on my social media. Most people know I'm believers. I don't preach. I don't use my fitness platform to be preaching to people every day, but my faith comes through. But I'll say it's more so when I'm at these events, talking to people backstage, praying with people backstage. Sometimes I do include my faith in articles I write for magazines and stuff. So it's just daily interactions with people and while I'm at events.
Yeah, because I think if you had a program that was geared towards Christians or whatever, only like singling them out, I don't know in which way you could do that. Maybe using Romans 12:1 or something like that, where it talks about how we're supposed to treat our bodies and stuff like that. But it could be, come off as contrite and maybe like gimmicky and stuff like that.
So I don't do that. There is a Christian magazine called Faith and Fitness. So I know the owner of that, and he puts that out, I don't know if it's every quarter or every month, but there is a Faith and Fitness magazine out there that talks about faith and fitness, and I've contributed to his magazine. Nice. But this last June, it was really exciting. One of the 3 shows Pillar did was at a live festival out in Ohio. Longtime festival. That's one we used to play in the very early days. Right. And he's Ken Ferguson over to Live is one of the reasons we came out of retirement, because he wanted to get us at his festival. It took a couple years for all the stars to align, but that was why we came back, was to do that. And we started adding other shows. But at that festival, he also had me speak on a side stage about faith and fitness. So I was able to talk. Oh, cool. I was able to talk about fitness aspects and my faith to an audience, and it was a really cool experience.
Yeah, I think that's where it comes off the most authentic, right? When you're just in conversation with people, when you're not using it as a gimmick, but you're using it just in conversation with people. And, I think that's because people can always sniff out like what's real, what's not, right? And I think that just having straight up conversation with people or being interviewed and talking about it that way are ways to let people know how your faith aligns with your routines and your training and helping other people and whatnot.
Yeah, so I haven't trained clients, for a long time anymore. I just write for magazines now. I have programs I put out. I do a lot of my job. If I had to label my job, I'm a sponsored athlete. I have a handful of companies that sponsor me, and I just try to put out content material to help educate people, with their fitness or nutrition, maybe inspiration, motivation, in incorporating my sponsors, or who are all companies that I really believe in. I know the owners, products that I use, that I share with my family and my friends. So that's kind of what my main job is nowadays, is this fitness platform.
Is that tough to get to that level, like to get sponsors, or is it just doing like hard work and due diligence to try to seek people who will back you and do that? But or is it more like any other sports where it's just like you've got to prove yourself, you've got to put yourself out there, you've got to let people notice you before they start giving you offers? Like how hard is that with
it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of hard work. So I had sponsors before I ever competed. So in the bodybuilding realm, and I only do natural bodybuilding, first of all. Let me make that clear. There's untested events and there's tested events. I've always done tested events. I'm a natural athlete. I've never taken steroids or growth hormone or all the other crazy stuff out there, because I do this for health. I'm trying to be healthy, not just a bodybuilder. Right. I enjoy lifting weights. I enjoy competing. But the real reason I exercise is to be healthy. I lost my grandparents, my parents at a pretty young age because they weren't very healthy. And I have kids myself, and I want to be around and be there for them. I want to see their kids. So for me to do that, I have to have myself healthy. And I want my kids to be healthy. And if I get them healthy, they're going to maybe influence their kids to be healthy. So my lifestyle now can affect generations of my family. That's kind of my why I've jumped into fitness so hard, is because of that.
Now, are your kids old enough to start taking an interest in fitness themselves?
Oh, years ago. My oldest boy is 20, and he works out every day. My next youngest son is 18, and he's pretty buff, and he actually got certified as a trainer himself just this last December, and he's training clients now. So it definitely had an effect on them boys, for sure.
Yeah, but
now, your original question though about getting sponsored, yes, it's a lot of hard work. Yeah. It's not handed to you. You do have to work extremely hard, and it's taken me a decade to get to where I'm at now. which is, I'm not rich or anything, man. I'm able to do what I enjoy, help support my family, and help other people. But it's a lot of hard work, and I would say that I understand how it works. I learned a lot of it from Pillar, and I've been able to help other athletes and other individuals kind of understand that sponsorship realm too. I wrote a book about how to get sponsors, and I sell it, but a lot of my friends that come to me directly, I'll just give it to them, to try to help other people learn how to do that, because it is a business. Working with companies, pretty high-end, big company, national companies, there's a little bit of business savviness you have to have, and so I'm always down to help other athletes learn that side of the business.
Nice. So how about any of your kids, did they catch the music bug, or did they learn how to play any instruments? Are they into music at all?
Both of my boys are musical. So I have 4 kids. Caden, who's 20, who wants to be a film director. Tyler, who's 18, he's a trainer now and interested in maybe being a physical therapist. He don't know yet, but maybe that. Then I have 2 twin girls that are 14. Okay. So we got a full house here.
Yeah,
but
sounds like it.
the boys have always been musical. Caden will come home from college and sit behind the piano and just play stuff. He's always gifted. Doesn't want to be a musician, though. He wants to be a film director. But he's always been drawn to music. And his brother Kyler, has got into guitar in the last year or so. He doesn't really want to be in a band or a musician, but he'll play the guitar and pick up stuff like that. Like, he learns way faster than I ever did. So if he wanted to be, he would be amazing. But right now, he just kind of pokes around for fun and enjoys it.
Right. And how I'm sure it was very important for you and your wife to instill the faith in your kids from an early age. Now, were they like you, and did they grasp it at an early age?
Yeah, they were raised in a Christian home and still go to church every weekend with us, and no kids are perfect. Just like we're not. They're going to make mistakes in their own decisions and stuff, and we just hope that foundation of faith that they were raised in will always just be a part of them as they grow and learn how to be adults and mess up and make mistakes. We hope that just is grounded them and stays with them.
And when you met your wife and you're courting and going through the whole dating thing, was there any hiccups in differences of beliefs that you had to kind of come together with, or was you guys just always on the same page right from the get-go?
Always on the same page. Yeah, there was really no conflicts there.
Well, that's kind of cool, because that makes it a lot easier, I mean, if you're like, oh, we're like, you're like 90% there, and you're like this at 10% that's just like, oh, why don't you just see it this way?
No, we've been fine on that.
Oh, that's awesome. So, have you ever had a chance, whether through your bodybuilding or training career, or even with Pillar, to have a chance, like you're talking about, you get to talk with a lot of people? Has there ever been an opportunity to evangelize, to actually talk to people about Christ who didn't really know him, to the point where they wanted to talk more and find out more? Yeah,
absolutely. Definitely through Pillar. I mean, we had, again, countless through, at shows, because we always made ourselves available. After the shows, we'd go out and talk to every individual until the last person left the door. So, yeah, we had a lot of people after shows come to us and ask us about what we believe in and pray with them. So that's happened a lot. I wouldn't say that that's happened in the bodybuilding realm. I have prayed with athletes backstage before and got to know some people and met some believers and had good conversations. But I did have an opportunity or two in the acting realm. Since about 2020, I've done fitness modeling for a really long time. Again, that's for probably about 8 years I've done fitness modeling. That led to some acting work in about 2020. So I do a lot of acting with movies and films and commercials, especially the last few years. And I've had opportunities in that realm to actually pray with people and talk about Christ. And it wasn't because of me. It just definitely God just made that happen. I just made myself available, and he put the people in my path.
Yeah. And then, of course, that's what we're supposed to do as Christians, right? When we have that opportunity, you can't pass that up, right? You've got to take it while it's there.
Yes, sir.
And and I'm sure you still reflect back to your accident and say, you're kind of obligated to God to do this because he kept you around here for a reason. So you might as well use your faith to the best of your ability because as even if the bare minimum showing gratitude to God for saving you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And you get that when you make yourself open. If you pray like, "Hey, God, give me opportunities to talk to people," He'll give it to you. You'll hear that inner voice. At least I do. Like, that person over there, something going on. I need to go say hi to that person. You just could get a little nudge, when you're supposed to do that. And it's happened off and on throughout my life.
That's awesome. Okay, so now let's talk about what you've got coming up. What do you have on the docket, both either with any kind of competitions coming up and with Pillar? I know that you guys are going to be playing the Loud and Proud Festival. I saw that was announced. And since we talked about Striper, they're on the docket. So talk a little bit about that. They're going to be there,
and Disciple as well. So Disciple was, right. We've known them for 20 years, longer than that. When we were still an independent band, Pillar started in Kansas. We met at Fort Hays State University in college. So we played Kansas and started playing the surrounding states, Colorado and around there. Disciple was the very first band we ever played with outside of Kansas. It was somewhere in Colorado we met Disciple. So we've known those guys for, 25 years, a long time. So we're excited to play with them again. And then the Striper out at the Loud and Proud Festival in September in Germany. We've been to Germany several times through the years. It's always an amazing time. There used to be a festival called the Christian Rock Festival or Christmas Rock Night or something like that.
Yeah,
it used to happen out there. And we went out there 3 times probably for that. And the kids would just go insane. So we're really excited to get back and see old friends, make some new friends, and hang out with Striper and Disciple and a bunch of other great bands.
Yeah, it looked like a
great lineup. That. We're going to be playing Kingdom Bound Festival in New York in the end of July. That's booked. It's a festival we played back in the day, a long time ago, and they're having us back, so we're very excited to get back to Kingdom Bound Festival. I think it's July 29th. It's on our website. I think it's July 29th, though, is when we play Kingdom Bound. And then we're actually in talks with a few other individuals about a couple other events later this year as well. So I don't want to talk about them yet because it's not final, but we're looking to do that. We recently picked up a booking agent again, so we can continue doing events in 2026 and onward.
How about any
new music? New music. Well, we have talked. I was just going to talk about that. Yeah, not a full album, but there's for sure one song, maybe 2 songs that we're tinkering with that we'd like to try to release by summer if possible. That's the plan. So yeah, we're all so busy. We do live in separate states. Everybody in the band has crazy lives and kids and opportunities going on. But our intentions are to finish up a song or 2 and have them drop this summer, along with the full-length documentary that's being edited right now. So when we had our reunion rehearsals and the 3 shows, my son Caden, who is a film director, he's an award-winning film director. He's very, very talented. He's already won awards. He's finishing college for film now. He works on movie sets, pretty big ones too, whenever he can fit it in his schedule. So he is the director, and we just let him run with it. We're not saying, do this. Here's what we want. We say, here, we're having a reunion. I want you to capture this. So he has a vision for what he wants to do. And him and a team of people that he brought in, filmed the rehearsals, all 3 shows, interviewed fans. He traveled to Ohio with us, did interviews with us, with other individuals in the music industry that know us. So we're excited. We're probably not going to see the whole thing until the premiere ourselves. I'll advise him if he has questions, but I told him I don't even want the band to really see this in its entirety until the premiere, which we're hoping is going to be at the end of July. And we're hoping to have a premiere event where it's played, maybe play some songs, and make a big thing out of it. But I don't want to give away the date and the details yet because we're still kind of putting that all together.
Right. Well, but that's a nice little teaser for people.
Yeah. So we're looking at end of July, hopefully. The documentary will drop, a couple new songs, play some shows, and, just have a good time.
Any bodybuilding events you've got coming up in case people want to go check out?
In 2023, I did 17 bodybuilding events, which is a
Wow.
lot. Most people
Yeah.
do three or four events in a year is normally a lot. I
Right.
did 17. I actually had a calling. I didn't start out that year planning to do that. I planning to compete that year, but as the year went on, I kept adding shows, and it really was a calling. I felt like that God was calling me to go out there and make a positive influence, meet people, talk with people backstage. So I ended up doing 17 competitions. I held up, did really well, met a lot of people. It was an awesome year. One of the shows, I even had Noah from Pillar come out and play guitar while I was doing my thing, which is I don't think anyone's ever done. I don't think in natural bodybuilding, no one's ever had a live musician on stage while he went out and flexed and did his routine. It was
That would have
awesome.
been cool. That would have been
It
cool. to
was
see.
really good. It's on video somewhere, and I just posted about it on my story on Instagram just yesterday, I think.
Right.
It will pop back up again. But so since that year, since 2023, I've taken the last couple of years off to recover, build. It takes time to build muscle, especially at age 48 naturally. But I'm looking to compete again next year. I have started promoting a bodybuilding event here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, called the Tournament of Titans. Last year was the first annual. I'll be doing it again this August 9th. It'll be the second annual Tournament of Titans, which is a natural bodybuilding event with the PNBA, which is an organization which I do most of my competing in. So I'm doing that. I'm basically working for other athletes in the meantime. But I'll hit the competition stage again next year because I really want to compete when I turn 50. It's kind of a milestone for me to see how I can do at age 50 next year.
Okay, and I'm sure that, and I'll post all kind of links for people to follow you. Would that information be on your personal website?
Yeah, so there's pillarmusic.com for the band. Pillarmusic.com has our merchandise, a couple dates that we have booked, and we keep that updated. And then I have, for me, wittigworks.com, WITTIG works, which has my acting, my music stuff with Pillar. It has my writing, my modeling, just basically all the random stuff I do is all on wittigworks.com.
All right, fantastic. I hope people take the time to follow you and check out what you got coming up. And those of you who are Pillar fans, if you can make it over to Germany, I think that's going to be a great show over there because it's going to be a great lineup. I wish I could go. I cannot go. But for those of you who can make the trip, I think you definitely won't be disappointed. I usually like to end in prayer. Do you mind if I say a prayer, Michael?
Let's do it.
All right, Father God, thank you so much for Michael and giving him to us and saving his life at an early age. Lord, just absolutely had plans for his life that are now evident, and I'm sure you will continue to reveal why he's still with us on a day-to-day basis, but with his family, with his career, and his friends. And please just continue to bless everything he's got going on, from upcoming competitions to this documentary for Pillar coming out. We pray that touches a lot of people and that so many people get a chance to see that documentary. And that, again, they get inspired by the lyrics, they get inspired by the songs, they get inspired by the stories and watching them on the road. Pray for their upcoming trip over to Germany and any other kind of shows that Pillar has coming up. May you bless them, keep them safe in their travels, and those that are coming to see them, Lord, again, just bless their travels and bless their ability to just grasp the music, grasp the lyrics, and this is how you reach people, through music. Music is the best way that we can reach people and touch their souls, Lord. So please continue to funnel that through Michael and everything that he's doing, and please again bless his family, and we ask for all of this stuff in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, man. I appreciate you.
All right, man. This has been wonderful, and so please follow Michael and everything he's got going on with the links down below, and we will see you next time on Rock Your Faith Out. Yeah.
Rock your